This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Good morning, Dan and Amy. A tough last several days for the FBI and Department of Justice continued yesterday with Department of Justice Inspector General Michael Horowitz before the House Oversight Committee, entertaining questions from the likes of Trey Gowdy and Jim Jordan when they weren't being interrupted with nonsense from Sheila Jackson-Lee. Jim Jordan sort of offered towards the end of his questioning period a tiny little summary of just exactly what has gone on with the senior leadership of the FBI
This is awesome.
Where they currently stand.
I thank the gentleman, Mr. Horowitz. James Comey, Director of the FBI, Andy McCabe, Deputy Director, Chief of Staff Jim Rubicki, General Counsel Jim Baker, FBI Counsel Lisa Page, and Deputy Head of Counterintelligence Peter Strzok. These were 6 important people at the FBI. Is that right?
Correct.
And they were the key players on the Clinton investigation and on the Russian investigation, correct?
They were certainly important on both.
Has Mr. Comey been fired?
Yes.
Has Mr. McCabe been fired?
Yes.
Did Mr. McCabe lie under oath, according to your report?
In our view, yes.
Yeah. Is there a criminal referral for Mr. McCabe?
I'm not going to comment on that.
Has Mr. Rubicki left the FBI?
Yes.
Has General Counsel Jim Baker left the FBI?
Yes.
Was he removed from his position prior to leaving the FBI?
I'm not sure of that.
Has Lisa Page left the FBI?
Yes.
Was she reassigned prior to leaving the FBI?
I believe so.
And has Peter Strzok been removed from his position as Deputy Head of Counterintelligence?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Horowitz, you've been in the DOJ for 10 years. You've been Inspector General for 6 years. You're chief of all the Inspector Generals. Have you ever seen anything like this at any other federal agency in your time in the federal government? 6 of the top people fired, demoted, reassigned, or left?
I obviously can't speak broadly to other areas that I haven't known before, but yes, this is
I've been in this town 11 and a half years. I've never seen anything like this.
Quite a hit parade, and that's just on the FBI side. We also have Rod Rosenstein, who is sort of under threat of possible impeachment by Gowdy and Jordan and Paul Ryan, along with Christopher Wray, if they don't comply with the subpoenas that have been pending for document production. So interesting times, and this is just focused, remember, mainly on the Hillary Clinton investigation. We haven't even gotten to Horowitz's review of the behavior of DOJ and FBI senior level officials from the outset of the Trump-Russian collusion investigation to present. That's still forthcoming. For more on this topic, we're pleased to be joined again by Sam Nunberg, who is a former senior political advisor to Donald Trump as candidate Trump. Sam, thanks so much for joining us again. Appreciate it.
It's an honor. Thank you.
How did you react to the report that was issued last week and some of the testimony, the back and forth that you've heard from Michael Horowitz and Christopher Wray over the last 24 hours?
Well, in all of this, Michael Horowitz is under a very unfortunate situation because the Inspector General, his mandate, he cannot build any case that is circumstantial or anything subjective. He has to take everything at face value. So you have to imagine how this guy feels when he's conducting this internal review and he has to take these lies, and they're lies, from Peter Strzok, James Comey, James Comey, McCabe, Lisa Page, whoever it is, he has to take these lies that, we followed all normal procedures with the Hillary Clinton investigation, which they didn't, by the way, and our political views and these texts that we were sending, by the way, on government-issued phones, calling Trump voters morons or whatever they were saying we're going to stop it. He has to take that at face value and say, look, they didn't play politics. 100%, Dan, they played politics. Now, I unfortunately had to read James Comey's book. I'm not telling anybody else to read James Comey's book.
Well, what did you learn? What did you find? What was the most horrifying or biggest lie?
Well, what James Comey flat out says in the book, that he flat out says, look, I had to make this public statement about why we were declining to tell the Department of Justice to proceed with any indictment against Hillary Clinton, I made this political calculation because he doesn't call it a political calculation, but it is political inherently. I made this calculation that I needed to give her a clean bill of health because she was going to be elected president. What we now know, and we know through the Inspector General report, is that Peter Strzok really wanted to close down the Clinton email investigation because he was running he was the point day-to-day man running the Russian counter intel investigation against the Trump campaign. Now, ironically, what happened was that Strzok and Lisa Page, who are having their extramarital affair, Strzok, because of his views and his support of Hillary, and because of the fact that he was, getting FISA warrants and trying to plant informants and run sting operations in the Trump campaign, there was a little issue about a computer in New York from the pervert Anthony Weiner. Anthony Weiner's Uma Abedin's husband, of course.
We know that.
And which
Comey doesn't.
Well, you know who didn't know that?
Yeah, right.
James Comey didn't know that.
Oh, my gosh.
That's what James Comey tells Horowitz. And Horowitz believes, or he'll even say in the report, well, they took too long to get to the pervert's computer because of their he doesn't say political, because they just viewed the whole matter as closed. So ironically, because Comey wanted to give Hillary the clean bill of health before she becomes president, and he, in his view, thought that that's what he was doing, he then had to, once he was forced, and I think his hand basically was forced here in New York from the New York Police Department and Patriots and the New York FBI office. Let me be very clear, if Mueller's people are listening, that's what I believe. I don't have any firsthand knowledge. Please don't call me back into the grand jury. But he was forced to do that. And so they're almost like the gang that can't shoot straight. They were trying to affect the election, tip the scales for Hillary, and they ended up helping Trump, which is ironic.
Yeah, but in the IG report, it says that there was no political bias, which still I'm scratching my head over.
Well, yeah. Once again, this isn't Horowitz's fault. I mean, Horowitz. This just shows you that our institutions are never really going to police themselves. It's a typical CYA report.
Yeah.
Yes, there were bad actors, but yes, these were bad specific individuals. But the institutions and the process worked perfectly well, which it didn't. But once again, he has to take everything at face value that they tell him. It's not Horowitz's fault.
Well, right, and also in Horowitz's report and in his testimony before Congress, he makes it clear that interpretation, no political bias, that the left is promulgating, is absolutely not what he has concluded in his report. That is just not in the report. In fact, he suggests that there's the possibility of political bias and a number of decisions that were made, a number of actions that were taken. Obviously, the evidence of the text messages goes to that. So that's just nonsense, the people that are suggesting that that's the top line takeaway from that report. But I wanted to go back to your involvement in this saga, this Russian collusion saga. You mentioned having to testify before the grand jury. Did you have the occasion to be interviewed by Peter Strzok or anybody at FBI who's no longer there or soon won't be?
No, I did not. But here's the issue. First of all, the main point man within the investigation for me is an Aaron Solinsky, and I want to be very clear. Aaron is extremely intelligent. He's a guy who should, if he was in private practice, he'd be doing very well. Mueller hired him or brought him in from another post in the Justice Department. And unlike Andrew Weissman, who's another person Mueller brought in, Andrew Weissman was at the Hillary Clinton victory party in New York crying like a child when she lost. This guy, I can assume, if I had to guess, he voted for Hillary, but I don't think he's a big fan of either or. But I don't know that. And in my voluntary interview, the three FBI agents across from me were completely professional. With that said, that's my voluntary interview. Mm-hmm. In my grand jury testimony, you may have heard. Remember, I was at the grand jury.
Yeah.
And, we know. Yeah. We're familiar with your work. Yes.
Thank you very much. And they had the woman. I can't forget her first name, but her last name is Rhee. Or I could be mispronouncing it. It's Rhee. Now Mueller, who is completely conflicted out. I still don't understand why Rosenstein, we have, 330 million people in this country. You can only find Robert Mueller to do the special counsel on the firing of Robert Mueller's protege, James Comey. I mean, give me a break, right? But Robert Mueller brought this woman in, Ree defended Clinton twice in private practice. She defended the Clinton Foundation, I believe, and she defended Hillary Clinton, who was named as a defendant in another suit. And she had donated money to Clinton in 2016. And my only point is that I shouldn't have to wonder why she's on that commit, why Mueller brought her in. You know, everybody wants to act like Mueller is some saint. They'll say Mueller served in Vietnam. You know what I say to him serving in Vietnam? I honor it, thank you, but you're in a different yard now. Boo-hoo-hoo. It has nothing to do with what you're doing now. And Bob is treating all of us, all Trump associates, extremely aggressively. He wants to get as many indictments, send many of us into jail because he wants Donald Trump impeached. He is on a vendetta, the same way Comey was on a vendetta against him. And, you know, they feel as if they're doing us a favor, and we're just not going to understand. You know, we don't understand Donald Trump's.
Oh, did we lose
Donald
Sam?
Trump's going to remove him.
Well, Sam, let me ask you this about that, because last month you suggested that your friend Roger Stone was probably going to be indicted, and I wonder then, based on what you're describing in terms of your assessment of how Mueller is going after Trump associates, past and present, where you think this investigation goes then. I know where it wants to, where you say Mueller wants it to go, but where do you think it actually goes? Who's vulnerable?
Look, I think that ultimately the decisive issue, we're going to find out about what happens with this investigation. Steve Bannon has said the midterms are crucial because they're essentially a referendum on Donald Trump and on his presidency. It's essentially his reelect because America's going to have two choices. The first choice is we keep the Republicans. I'm not that happy with them myself sometimes. I think that, you know, they have a lot of problems there. They can't get stuff done, but we keep them in power. Or we're going to really enjoy seeing Nancy Pelosi, Adam Schiff, and Jerry Nadler every day. Nadler through the House Judiciary Committee. They'll impeach this president, and then they'll throw it to the Senate, where it will go down in flames for a Mueller report. And what will end up happening is we'll have a president who will essentially be a lame duck and not be able to get anything done, including, by the way, it will greatly affect his world standing, and he won't be able to continue with the momentum he has on ending a 60-year-plus war that we are in with North Korea. So I look at everything from this point of view. How does this affect Donald Trump and this coup of unelected bureaucrats who are trying to impeach him? And therefore, we have to look at it day to day of what's going on. The polling is tightening between Republicans and Democrats hold on Congress. The president's approval rating is as high as it's ever been. I don't want to sound like a Kellyanne Conway or Katrina Pearson, even though I like them personally. I think they sometimes sound a little whatever on TV. I happen to think his numbers are probably higher than people want to admit. And the better news to me is, and thank you for having me on, is that Americans are starting to realize that the Mueller investigation is a canard. It is not being handled fairly. It is a bunch of people that are having a journey of self-discovery, all holding hands, slapping each other high fives, thinking that they're the new Watergate people. And I think that's how I really look at it. Of course, when this is all over, the president, as is his right, can issue pardons. I don't suggest he issues any pardons until after Mueller's special counsel is wrapped up. And another issue is that what we really need is Rosenstein. You know, essentially, by the way, Rosenstein wears the pants with Jeff Sessions, who is another disgrace. Rosenstein wears the pants with him. And, of course, Mueller wears the pants with Rosenstein. So, essentially, Rosenstein has made Mueller the de facto acting attorney general of the United States. Rosenstein better start honoring and handing in those documents for those subpoenas.
Well, that's right.
From 5 congressional oversight committees. And then we're going to find more out.
All right.
Because you and I, as American taxpayers, shouldn't have to ask why our president of the United States has to worry every day whether or not he's going to be impeached, while he's trying to revive the economy, strengthen the rule of law, and work on frankly, the world's national security for somebody, a jerk like Bob Mueller and these unelected bureaucrats. And there are too many questions about the special counsel's office. I am sorry. And when I talk to anyone, look, it's anecdotal. But when I talk to people, I hear plenty of people here in New York City who say, I don't like Donald Trump. But you know what they also don't like? They don't like the government trying to undo an election. And it's either, as Rudy Giuliani said, to Bob Mueller, it's time to put up or shut up.
Sam, Sam, we're going to have to leave it there. Appreciate it. Sam Nunberg, former senior political advisor to President Donald Trump. Sam, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
It's an honor. Have a great day.
You too.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.